in the chat box. And at the end, we will have time for questions. It's not, just hang on a sec. It's not cooperating. There we go. I will be putting in the consumer satisfaction survey from the Alabama Council on Developmental Disabilities, ACDD. That information goes to them and it's shared with the federal government, and that helps us get additional funding. This is our third year of doing this, and a lot of it has to do with your feedback that you do in these consumer satisfaction surveys. We have the questionnaire to see what everyone is learning. We can see last time, after the last presentation, somebody commented that we should have a presentation on the ADA. And so we are going to have that presentation in July. So thank you for that feedback. If you haven't already, well, you haven't already because I haven't posted it, but it'll be there as soon as we get started. And it'll be available in English and Spanish. I'm Dr. Doris Hill. I'm the director of the Regional Autism Network, and I'm an associate research professor. And like, as I said, I'm one of the primary instructors on this grant. And Maria Gutierrez, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Maria Gutierrez. I am the family navigator for region number 4. We cover 20 counties, but we are so happy to see families from across the state. And, you know, I am so excited to finally have Dr. Mayra Rodriguez here. I know that she keeps a pretty busy schedule. So I was so happy when she said, of course, I will come and present for your families. So I'm gonna let her introduce herself, let us know a little bit about herself, what is the job that she does in Auburn University and across the community, and which ones are are some of the councils and groups that she is involved for the benefit of so many families in Alabama. So thank you for being here. I will invite you parents to send your questions privately on the chat box, and everybody that participated today will be getting the handouts and the link for the recording later on. So thank you for being here. Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for having me here today. I am honored to be a part of this group this morning. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a assistant professor, discipline chair for the osteopathic medical school. It's a medical school here in Auburn, Alabama. Its full name it's a long name, Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine. I teach first and second year medical students about preventive medicine and public health. That is my specialty. I work a lot with the community. One of the main things that we do as a medical school is we want to make sure that our medical students are engaged and understand the community before they go out and be clinicians. And, you know, living in the rural South, that you'd say, right? There are so many complexities in, you know, beautiful circumstances, but also not so beautiful circumstances that our area is engaged in. And so part of my job is to connect our medical students with our community. I work with seniors, our senior centers. I worked with our immigrant families, with Esperanza House very closely. I work with different church groups. in providing basic health education, but also, you know, not just educating our community, but also educating our students about our communities. You know, las familias que tenemos aquí, somos muy diferentes, and, you know, each one has its uniqueness about it all. And so that's a little bit about what I do. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay, Maria. So I can go ahead. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So if I can get that in the meantime, I'll keep chatting. Today we'll be talking a little bit about you know, what it is to be in you know, what's summertime. And you know, when we are out in a different environment, which is, can you see that okay? Yes, wonderful. You know, we're in a routine, right? We're in a world of having routines in our lives, and we're about this close to be in a different routine, which is our children are out of school, and now what is it going to look like? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So this is something that I talked to you about already. That's my face again, and that's who I am, and that is a logo for my school. So this is, if you want to call it, the main page of our focus in our lecture. You know, the question is how, you know, this yellow figure in the middle, you know, how do I manage everything, right? Usually when we have our school months, we have our families, you know, it's always a fast routine, right? Just trying to get the kids to school is a challenge in and of itself. And then when the kids arrive to school, it's a challenge just to get them fed and get them safely to bed. And then there's routines that we have to change, which are when we deal with the weekday routine, and then when we have to deal with weekend routines. And that's, you know, that's difficult as well. And now what, you know, the focus of this lecture is the summer months. You know, we have a good 2 months where we are going to have no school, and our children are essentially, you know, don't necessarily have that hectic routine. So go ahead and go to the next page. So some of the topics that we're going to talk about today is media consumption. I'll explain what media consumption is about. It's really all things related to technology, right? How much technology happens on a regular, you know, school schedule, and how much technology happens in a summer schedule. And then our sleep, you know, let's think about that. You know, how is our sleep regulated on the school system when we're in school, and how much sleep do we have when we're in our summer months? And I know that on a weekly basis, our sleep changes too, right? From a weekend, kids like to stay up at night because it's Friday night, and wake up late on a Saturday. But what does it look like when we're in the summer months? And then the other thing we're going to talk about is food. What kind of things do we eat and consume as a family, as your, you know, our teenagers or our children, our little kids? How does our food change? How do our food habits change? And the last thing we want to talk about is relationships. You know, what is the relationship that we have with our children? And what kind of relationships do our children have with their brothers and sisters, or with their friends, or, you know, if they're adolescents, with their girlfriends or boyfriends? So let's talk about media consumption. You know, as I mentioned to you earlier, media consumption is all things related to technology use. You know, what do we mean by media? Any kind of technology, including social media. So, there is evidence there that most of the media is consumed with our cell phones. So it's not necessarily a computer anymore. Yeah, for little kids, sometimes it's their tablet if they're little. And then as they grow up a little bit older into their tween or teenage years, now they get a cell phone. And, data shows in 2021 that US adults, now this is only for adults, spend about 13 hours and 35 minutes per day consuming media. So 13 hours, how many hours are in a day? 12 hours. So more than 12 hours are consumed in one day. And this is only for adults. So as parents and adults, if we are on our phones, we have to think about what is the role model, what is the behaviors that we are showing and teaching and reflecting back to our children. So something to think about, and that is a significant problem. We consume media because if we are working, we have to check our work information, emails. If we're not working, we have to check what's the latest gossip with our neighbors and our friends. And then, of course, we have to check what's going on in the news and the weather. But 13 hours, that's a lot of time. We're not looking at the sun and breathing and spending time with our family. So now here's an important other note that I want to give you is, anything more than 2 hours a day really increases social isolation. What does social isolation mean? Social isolation means that we are being removed, we're getting ourselves detached away from our friends and family. We are more secluded. We get into our head a little bit more. We are alone, essentially. Okay, so we feel more alone. Okay, and there is a problem that is happening now in our country where we have a lot of our teenagers and a lot of our young adults suffering from mental health issues. And this is part of the problem, the increased use of social media. So those are the two problems. Adults are using too much technology, and teenagers or young adults are also using too much technology. And what does that lead to? That leads to social isolation. Now there's other data, we don't just feel alone, but you know what? For the little ones, for the young population, it also affects with your sleeping. It affects it creates the environment being in attached to technology too much. Improves, or increases your risk of cyberbullying, meaning you are now at risk of being attacked or being insulted through the technology, right? Social anxiety. You watch something that's maybe a horrible tragedy, you're exposed to more violence, you're exposed to negative images, and increases your blood pressure, it increases your level of nervousness. That's what anxiety is. And it also increases level of depression. So for all those things, too much technology is not a good thing. Let me see here. And then the last thing I want to mention about technology here is evidence shows that teenagers or even children with autism are more likely to use YouTube as their preferred media. So YouTube, I just want to make parents aware that it is very important that the content is relevant and the content that our children are watching is appropriate for their age level. It is important that our parents look at the show more than a minute. I would say a good 10 minutes of watching that content, and then the parent can determine, is this appropriate for my child or not? Sometimes it takes a while for the content and the language to show. Sometimes the language is too violent, or they may have inappropriate language. The imaging and the messaging is a little off. So there are a lot of cartoons out there that just because you think it's a cartoon, from far away, you may say, oh, it's a cartoon, it's not a big deal. But you know what, when we look closely, and I've seen these things, it looks like, they're bright colors, it's a red and yellow and pink, and they look really pretty. But once you pay attention, it's actually violent, or it actually could be sexual in nature as well. And so it is so important for parents to kind of look at that, sit and say, I'm going to watch this with you for a few minutes and watch it together, and then determine whether or not it's appropriate. Okay. I can go on and on and talk about it. The last thing I think I want to say about not just YouTube is TikTok. So the difference now in the last few years, we have now the videos, TikTok, and I know all our families know what TikTok is. So let me give you the difference. YouTube are videos that can last an hour, or they can last 30 minutes. These are videos that can be a movie, or it could be a show. On average, YouTube has videos that last about 11 minutes long. So that's on average. TikTok, on the other hand, it's a whole other level. It raises the bar. Why is that? Because the videos on TikTok last on average 34 seconds. So what does that do to our brain? So what it's doing, we're watching a video 34 seconds and it's done. And it's either a funny video, a tragic video, an impactful video. And we're watching these things, and then we're very quick to just scroll up and watch the next video. So it is like a loop that we get sucked into, and it's hard to get away. So that is a whole other level of impact, high impact, for our young vulnerable populations. So for all these reasons, we know what the health outcomes are: poor sleep, cyberbullying, social anxiety, and depression. So be aware of those. So how are we going to address them? One of the couple of things that we want to make sure that we address are be intentional. What does that mean? Be intentional. If we want to remove our children from social media and technology, we as parents have to be intentional about it. We can't just say, be very big and say, well, no TV for the rest of the day, or no phones for all day, or all summer, or whatever. We have to be very specific. So we have to be intentional and plan something. So we have to say, you know what, for the next 30 minutes, sometimes it's looking at this. Again, the mentality, think of it like TikTok, for example, the short snippets of time. We can say, for the next 30 minutes, we are going to sit down and we are going to talk about our day. That will take up 30 minutes. Maybe that takes even longer, and that would be fantastic. For the next 30 minutes, we are going to go outside and we are going to, I don't know, mow the grass or do an activity, but we're going to have a dedicated time for the next period of time. We're going to do something. Of course, for summer, it's always nice to do nice, fun things, right? All kinds of board games are available. You can, if you know of different families, you can always switch board games, and you don't necessarily have to go and buy other board games, but you can say, oh, do you have a board game that I've never seen before? Maybe I can switch and we can try your board game. So little activities that we can do for your young and adolescent children. The point is that if you tell to your child the next 30 minutes or the next hour, this is what we're doing, that is time that has now been focused and intentional. And that's the time that your child is not consuming media, and neither are you as a parent, right? So you want to create that environment. You can also create an environment by saying, at dinner time, either before dinner time when we're cooking or when we're actually sitting at the table. The TVs are off, all the phones are going to be in a little corner, and we are going to have dinner together. Okay, and we're just going to talk, or we're going to go eat outside. We're going to get a blanket and eat outside in the backyard. That would be fun for summer, right? So if you are intentional about, even if it's the first 30 minutes, reward yourself as a parent, because it is hard. It is hard to detach children from media. But if you are intentional in doing the next 30 minutes, then you've succeeded something, right? And then the next day, it'll get a little bit easier. Then you can say, oh, around this time, next 30 minutes, this is the time. The child may actually look forward to it and say, Mom, can we do that game that we did yesterday? That was really fun. Or, hey, Mom, can we go outside and eat again? That was really fun. Okay. So you can provide options for your child. You can talk about, well, what did you do today? Or what would you like to do tomorrow? Planning and thinking ahead is very important to have our child, think about planning. What would you like to do this weekend? What would I like to do this weekend? Things, arts and crafts, sometimes, we can get children different colors of paper with scissors and glue and tell them to create and develop something depending on their age group. You'd be surprised how entertained children are. Arts and crafts, whether it be clay, Play-Doh, things that they can touch and feel, are so, so valuable and so friendly for the kids. Okay. And then the last thing, would be fun is to have, if you have more than one child in your house, have your children say, what, can you guys produce a play, or, go work, make a song for yourselves and come back, and maybe at dinner time, after dinner, you guys can have a show for us, and the children can come back and, work on their play, work on their song, and come over here and do a song and dance. For some of the children that like to sing and dance, would be really fun. Okay. So the next topic that I want to talk about is sleep. I don't know if are we doing questions at the end? Yes. Okay. All right. I see a couple of questions. Okay. So the next topic we want to talk about is sleep. So let me do this. There we go. Okay. So how much do we sleep? According to the National Institute of Health, the average adult sleeps less than 7 hours a night. And, in a fast-paced society, right, 6 or 7 hours of sleep may sound pretty good. But in reality, 6 or 7 hours is actually not enough. What is it that let me remove that little picture there. So this is the recommended hours of sleep. This is how many hours we probably need, and this is how many hours it may be appropriate. So depending on our age group, right? If we are young adults, or we're adults as parents, how many hours? About 7 to 9 hours. And, if you get maybe 6 hours to 11 hours, that would be appropriate. The thing is, if you get 6 hours a day for an entire year, that's probably not a good thing. Okay, so 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day for a long period of time. What's a long period of time? More than 3 months. That's not a good thing. The thing is, and let me tell you the problem, and you probably maybe have figured this out. We as a culture, we don't value sleep. What do we value? We value productivity. We want to do things. We want to do it all. We want to do it all right now. That's what we value. And, I'm Hispanic. Yo soy Latina. And when we say we sleep, we say, oh, we're lazy. Oh, we can't be lazy. No, no, no. So that's something that our culture has, right? When we sleep, we're lazy. But sleep is important. Sleep keeps us healthy. We need sleep. And, as I mentioned to you, we have a problem. 62% of adults experience a sleep problem a few nights each week. We can talk about sleep, about are we comfortable? Are we too hot? Are we too cold? Do we have the right pillow? Do we not have the right pillow? But during summertime, when we have our a change in schedule, we need to think about at what time do we go to bed? Does that change? Do we go to sleep later? Because it's summer. I don't have to wake up early. So one of the things we have to think about is, are we thinking that we are sleeping later, and that's okay? The answer to that would be, if you go to sleep late and wake up late, that's actually causing a shift in your internal schedule. That's called your circadian rhythm. So inside our body, we have a little clock, right, that tells us when is nighttime and when is daytime. And when we move that, so for example, when we stay up late or we wake up very late, our body kind of is a little bit confused. And that is also not healthy, because now your body doesn't quite know, should it be fully awake or should be sort of asleep. And so, bottom line, if we are really good about keeping a schedule, that will be a good thing in the long run for your health, even if it's the weekend or even if it's the summer. Having a good, consistent sleep will be a very good thing for you in the long run. Now, problems that we face, I think I'm going to move to the next slide here. How does poor sleep or problems with sleeping affect our lives, our quality of life? How does it affect our health? Well, we can get moody. Moody means that we're not in a good mood, that we're grumpy. We will get angry. As parents, we will lash out with our children. If you're a child, you'll be angry with your parents. You'll be angry with your brothers and sisters. Something that would be normal, I didn't like my food, I don't want it. The child will probably have a fit and say, I don't want my food, and they'll slap it and they'll be angry and they'll start crying. It's probably a lack of sleep. Memory troubles, that's a big one for people that work in environments that are, for example, the night shift, or people that nurses that work in the late shift, or factory workers, or police officers, or people that have these odd jobs that they have to work, right? But when they do that for a long period of time and work on these type of schedules that are different, that does affect our health in the long run. It tires our brain, and our brain has difficulty in remembering things. We have trouble focusing and thinking. We end up gaining weight. Again, our body has an internal clock, and when we shift that sleeping schedule, that disrupts, that messes up our whole body system. So we gain weight, we can't really focus, we don't make proper plans, and we have a weakened immune system. What does that mean? When our immune system is down, we get easily sick. We can get a cold easily. We can, any kind of virus. It's easy for our body to just take it, and then we're always sick. So that's not a good thing either. And then there's actually studies out there that increase the risk of cancer. It doesn't mean you're going to get cancer. It increases the risk. It means that Well, you know, when we misuse our body, when we don't take care of it for a long time, our body can only do so much. It works wonderfully, but if we mess it up, we don't sleep well, we mistreat it for a very long period of time, our body starts not working very well. And so there is some evidence there that says that there is an increase in cancer. And so the last bullet here talks about, how different professions. So usually for people that work, for example, nurses that work the night shift, it's important that, and the nurses know that they hopefully don't work the night shift for very long, right? So they might do it for maybe 2 months or 3 months, and then they'll shift over to another time shift. For people that are blue collar workers that sometimes don't have the choice to change, those are the populations that we worry about. And those are the populations that we really need to look at closely. So again, factory workers that work late shifts, security guards, maybe even police officers that do this for a long period of time. That's not necessarily a healthy lifestyle to have for your own personal health. Okay, so what do we do about sleep? Now we know the problem. So what do? We plan for better sleep. We want to set a consistent sleep schedule. Consistent, that's what I tell you, right? It's all about consistency. If I'll tell you a story. My brother, he goes to sleep. He's younger than me. He's I think in his mid-30s, and 8:30 he goes to sleep. And I know I cannot send him a message at 9 o'clock because he's not going to respond because he's already asleep. And I joke with him, but he's actually really good. He's very protective of his time. 8:30, and he's an early riser, so he gets his full sleep. And I'm kind of jealous because I don't necessarily do that very well sometimes. But we have to be protective of our sleep. We have to protect it as adults, and we have to show that behavior to our children, how important sleep is. Because once we learn that, it is gonna, again, it's so good for our health. You're gonna be a healthier individual in the long run. For our children, for parents that have younger children, we want to be able to have nice routines when we go to sleep. So basically, think about this, it's if you go to sleep, if you want your child to go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night, are you going to have the TVs all on and the lights on? Are we going to have music? Are we going to have a dance party? Probably not. We want to be able to dim the lights, maybe have a little lamp, turn off all the music. Maybe if you want your child to be in bed by 8 o'clock, then at 7 o'clock, we need to start changing the environment little by little. Okay, first of all, turn off all the lights, turn off all the devices, all the TVs. We want our child to take a shower, right? A nice warm shower. So you're slowing things down, right? In our house, everything needs to be slowed down. TVs are off, no more media, no more technology. If your child wants maybe a warm glass of milk, something to kind of help the child kind of warm and slow their little body down, right? The next thing we want to do is put them in bed, have them something where comfortable, so they're comfortable. If they're hot natured, then have them wear shorts, right? Because it's summertime. Socks or no socks. Once you get them in bed, then you want to have them, again, relax, no technology. You want to find a book or tell them a story. We want to be able to calm them down, take their mind away from the TVs and all the chaos, and tell them about a mystical world, somewhere in the forest, somewhere nice, somewhere on a beach, something that's going to relax them. Okay, so if you have these routines with your child, again, their little body will start learning and figuring out, oh, this is when I start calming down. This is when I start going to bed. You do not, as a grown-up, if you want to do this for yourself, you do not want to take coffee at night. We do not want to take alcohol at night. you know. So the thing about, you know, our environment, if you think about your bedroom or your child's bedroom, you want your child's bedroom to kind of, you know, if you have curtains, cover up that light that's coming in through the windows. You don't want any noises. You know, if you accidentally step on a child's toy and that toy makes a lot of noise, you want to take out those toys that makes noises, or the loud toys, take them out of the room. They can use them, but they shouldn't be in the bedroom when it's nighttime, because the child may wake up and step on that toy and scare the child, right? You want to make sure you get a really nice, comfortable pillow. You know, if your child loves a blanket, have their favorite blanket. So it's all these things. You're planning for better sleep for you and for your child. So the last 2 hours for adults and for children, keep things calm. No more eating. The last 2 hours before going to bed, if you are going to be in bed at 8 o'clock, the last meal that you as a grown-up are eating is at 6 p.m. And preferably your child too. Your child may need some milk or a tiny snack, and I think that's okay. But no large meals, right? No full rice and full beans and 3 tortillas. We don't want that. So something light, hopefully maybe a little glass of milk, maybe a tiny little cereal if you want it. But the idea is for your child to kind of get relaxed. And no more jumping up and down, right? The dance party was at 6 p.m., but no more jumping, no more running, no more. You're slowing things down at night. That gets your body into a calm state. Okay, so now let's talk about food. So family summertime. Oh my goodness, I love food. Who doesn't love food? I love food so much. So food is with us and it's a part of community. You know, we can get together, we eat. That's what we do as human beings. We want to invite our friend over for lunch and we have a great lunch. In the evenings when we have parties, that's what we eat. We all gather around the kitchen table to eat. But now let's think about the summer, right? When we're in the summer, a lot of families go traveling. We like to go to the beach, we travel. Now we're about 3 hours from the beach here in Auburn. Some of you may travel further, right? 4 or 5 hours. Some of you may travel to go see family. I have family and I travel 9 hours to see family. That's a long time. So when we're traveling, what do we pack to eat, especially if we have little kids? So let's try to think and plan about the kinds of things we travel. More often than not, I will tell you that we probably pack not so healthy things. We tend to stop at gas stations. If we're traveling by car, we tend to get the chips and the Cokes and all the processed things. So if we are traveling, if you are planning to travel this summer, it would be really nice to try to get some healthy items in your travel kit. Ahead of time, you can pack some grapes, you can pack some oranges, you can pack some apples. One time I packed some bananas. That kind of didn't work because they got squashed. So maybe not bananas. So, you know, healthy fruits, right, are healthy options. I'm not telling you never to get chips. I'm just telling you to try to have that good balance with your meals, right? So when we arrive with family, again, usually when we gather, we like to eat all the tacos, all the fajitas, and all the quesadillas, right? I know those are the favorites. And of course, there tends to be a lot of alcohol usually, and lots of cake. So those are all the not healthy things. And I think we know that, right? The Cokes too, not healthy. Okay, so what do we look at when we are trying to eat a little bit healthier? So the recommendation is if you look at your plate, whatever plate it is, you want to make half of your plate. If you draw a line, you want to make half of your plate fruits and vegetables. So half of it has to be not rice. Half of your plate shouldn't be rice. It should be fruits or vegetables. Any kind of fruit, grapes, watermelon. Watermelon's so popular in the summer. We love watermelon. Vegetables, any kind of vegetables, spinach, tomatoes, peppers, right? So half of your plate can be fruits and vegetables. And the other half, can be grains. But look at this word, it says whole grains. So when I talked to you about rice earlier, we wanted to be whole grain rice, the trigo, right? Not necessarily the white rice. You want to be able to switch for you and your children about 1% milk and not, whole milk. La leche entera tiene más grasa. So fat-free means no fat, okay? Fat-free quiere decir nada de grasa. The other option would be 1% milk. 1% de grasa. Those are the two options there for milk. And then what you want to choose is a variety of lean proteins in your plate. So lean proteins can be chicken, turkey, fish. Okay, usually the red meats, las carnes rojas, que son fajitas, carne molida, all those things are not that healthy. So lean proteins would be fish, chicken, and turkey. And then you want to, keep an eye out on the sodium. What is sodium? Sodium is a salt. Trying to help you control that salt would be a good thing. And last but not least, is so important. I think this is probably the easiest thing that we can do when we're traveling is drink water. Water for our children. Always water for our children. Never, never, never drink Cokes for our children. Never drinking any kind of Cokes for our children. You're going to have a healthier child if you give your child water and milk as long as you can. Okay. So important. So water when you're traveling. Okay, so those are the recommendations. Now this slide right here is a very popular slide. I hope that you have seen this before. In the bottom, I give you here a link. If you do have access to these slides, I recommend that you look at this link. It's called myplate.gov. You can also go to this with your phone, and it's a wonderful website. It can be interactive for you. And it tells you, that circle, that's like your plate. So, remember what I told you, the red and the green right here? This is half, right? Half fruits, half vegetables. Okay. And just notice how the fruit portion is a little bit smaller than the vegetables. So yes, fruits are good, but it would be a little bit better if you have a little bit more vegetables in your plate. The other half of your plate can have grains. And remember, we talked about whole grains, right? Grains, arroz de trigo, pastas de trigo, pan de trigo, those kinds of things. Wheat, rice, pasta, wheat pasta, or wheat bread. And then there's proteins. So down here, the proteins are all the meats. So all the meats that you can think of. But proteins also include things like beans. Okay, beans are also very good in proteins. Beans are actually very, very healthy for you. Okay. And then the last part right here on the side of your plate is this little circle, which would be your cup of milk, of dairy. And hopefully you get 1% or no percent fat of milk. Okay. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. Now let's talk about relationships. Relationships are, relationships are so important. If we are here in this world is to make our loved ones happy, right? We want to be happy and we want the people around us to be happy. Family dynamics change, though. They change when our environment changes. So, when it's stressful, when we have a bad day at work, or our children have a bad day at school, everybody kind of feels it. Our child is angry, our child is sad, or us as parents, we're angry or we're sad when we have a bad day at work. So when there's a change in schedule, sometimes we don't think about it, but when there's a change in schedule, now kids are at home more often for the summer, that can cause change in the family relationship, right? Maybe the mom or the dad are more stressed because the child didn't fold clothes and the child didn't wash dishes, or there's they made a mess in the house and now the parent has to clean it all up because they were home all day. So if you're traveling on vacation, that can be stressful because you're all in a car for 9 hours. So if you end up traveling and being with family, right? You stay at your aunt's house or your tío's house or your grandma's house, and that can be stressful because they have a different life and a different environment. So family relationships change all the time. So what is it that I want to tell you about relationships? First of all, relationship starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with ourselves. And one of the things that we want to do about ourselves is, what is the attitude we have ourselves about others, right? How do we behave? Okay. And these are a few things that I like to tell teenagers. I like to tell parents. I like to tell kids. Teenagers and little kids are still working on these things. Let's talk about each one very quickly. Little kids and teenagers, they don't quite know, but do they know how to shake somebody's hand? A good, strong handshake. And I know we didn't shake hands for a long time during COVID. I think it's okay to shake hands now, right? But we want to have a good, strong handshake with an individual. Little kids and teenagers may or may not be okay with that. For adults as parents, what are we saying about our relationships? Are we confident or are we nervous? That handshake that I'm talking about, when we shake our hands and we barely touch somebody's hand. I know in Hispanic culture, sometimes women shake hands and it's barely like we touch the tip of our fingers and we just kind of do this. No, we want to have a good, strong handshake. That means we're confident. Okay, that's what that means. When we as parents, are we speak loud and clear? We want to be clear with our messaging, with our friends and family, and with our children. And hopefully we teach that with our children as well. What is it that they're trying to tell us? What are they trying to communicate with us? And sometimes for our teenagers, our teenagers get a little bit shy when they're teenagers, right? They're a little bit uncomfortable and don't know exactly how to speak or what to say. And hopefully we work with our teenagers to speak hopefully more than 3 words, right? When we ask them something, our teenagers like to say yes or no, and then that's it. Oh, and they also like to say, I don't know. Those are usually what they say, right? Those are the 3 words they like to say, I don't know. But when we work with our teenagers, say, okay, what don't you know? Can you tell me more, right? So that will help improve relationships when we try to just, can we take the time to communicate a little bit better? And by communicating, I don't just mean talking. We also have to listen. We have to listen as parents. We have to listen as teenagers. right? What did my friend tell me when she said, I don't want to sit with you? What does that mean? We want to be able to be good listeners. And then we have to try and try again. Sometimes as teenagers and as parents, we say, well, I asked this person once, and they never responded to me. That's it. I'm not going there again. And we tend not to reach out and continue reaching out to it could be a friend, it could be a neighbor, it could be a teacher that we're trying to communicate with. Well, I emailed that teacher and they never got back to me. Well, you know what? Maybe that teacher's really busy. Let's try and try again. The idea is to communicate, right? Be clear. We say, I emailed you a month ago, or I emailed you 2 weeks ago, or I left you a voicemail. I was just following up with you, right? We do the same thing with our children. Well, you didn't tell me what you wanted. Can you tell me again? Have you changed your mind? What would you like to do? Okay. And you always want to have a plan when it comes to having a good relationship with someone. You want to have those positive intentions, right? As a family, we want to have a plan. What do we want to do next week? What would we like to accomplish in the next month or year? What are our plans as a family? And we got to talk about our plans we can't just have our plans in our head. We got to talk about it. That way our partner knows about it. Our children know about the plan. And then once everybody knows about these plans as a family, we can now work together as a family, right? Because if only mom has a plan in her head about, well, I know I want to plant my tree in the backyard, but she doesn't tell anybody, well, that tree may not get planted ever, right? And now she's upset because that tree did not get planted. And then we have to be able to have support, supporting others and finding a good support system yourself. For teenagers and for parents, it's always so helpful to have that one friend, even if it's just one, that can listen to you and give you advice, right? And even if it's just listen, that sometimes makes us feel really good. When we are able to go to that friend and say, man, friend, I had a really bad day today. Let me tell you all about my horrible day. And that friend will say, you know what? I'm so sorry you had a bad day. I'm here for you, right? So finding a good support system, sometimes it can be really hard for teenagers. That's probably the hardest thing about being a teenager, is finding friends and being okay and comfortable with talking to other people. So you as a parent, hopefully you're able to help your child and navigate that friendship. Sometimes that's really, really hard for teenagers. And then the thing that we can do to try to reflect for ourselves is be able to read. Not TikTok videos, but reading a book, right? Go to the public library and reading a book. You can read about a book about parenting. You can read about a book about fantasy, something to help your brain get away and relax. And it is always nice when you're stressed and you are stressed with your teenager or with your child, you can go out and maybe go for a walk, right? Or have your teenager, if they're stressed with a friend, well, you know what? Have them go play basketball. That way they can release that energy. That little body can only take so much. So when your child can release that energy, they will feel so much better. Okay. So now we're almost done here. This is our last slide. The thing about, we want relationships. What are unhealthy relationships and what is a healthy relationships? Let's talk about unhealthy relationships. So unhealthy means not healthy, right? Relaciones que no son saludables. These are relationships that are dangerous, okay? So it's important to understand what that means. So an unhealthy relationship is a relationship where you have with another person that there is too much control. So maybe that person wants to control you, where you're going, when you're coming back. Text me when you're there. Text me if you're going to be late. There's hostility. Hostility means you're angry and you scream out and you create a fearful environment for somebody. A dishonest relationship. So maybe people are lying to you or you are lying to others, right? When people are making lies, one lie leads to another lie. Those are unhealthy relationships. We shouldn't be having a relationship where we're having to lie to people. If we're having to lie to people, it's best not to have a relationship at all and just kind of move away. Disrespect, a relationship where we call each other names, insult, hit, physical violence. Those are not healthy relationships. Now, dependence. Dependence means if I am in a relationship and I cannot leave the house because my partner will be angry, or I cannot leave the house because I don't have a car, and I don't make my own money, so I have to ask for money, and I have to ask for a car, or I have to ask to open the refrigerator, or I have to ask to take a shower. That's dependence. You cannot make your own decisions. You have to ask people for them. So that is dependence. That is not a healthy relationship. And intimidation and sexual violence. Intimidation means you make people feel bad, right? Hey, that happens, this is what you would call bullying if you're a teenager or a child. You better listen to me or else, right? You better give me your money, or better give me the keys to your car, or else you'll see what's going to happen if you don't do that. So that's intimidation. And then sexual violence, having to have sexual relationships with someone when you do not want to, right? Or hitting to get sexual relationships. That is not a healthy relationship at all, okay? So it's easy to see what is not a healthy relationship. If you are involved in a healthy relationship, please reach out and ask for help to any one of us. It is so important to be safe and feel safe. Now let's talk about a healthy relationship. What is a healthy relationship? Easy to see a very different environment, right? Mutual respect, trust, honesty, compromise. If you have a partner and you say, well, I want to eat at Whataburger, and then your partner says, well, no, I want to eat Chinese. And it's like, well, now you have to compromise. Okay, well, you know what? Let's just go to the mall where there's chicken burgers and Chinese, and then you both get what you want, right? So that's a good compromise. Individuality, you get to be yourself, and it's okay. You don't have to be afraid if you're speaking your mind, right? If you're speaking your thoughts, you have good communication. Good communication is probably the number one problem for failed relationships. Again, if you have thoughts in your mind, you want to share those ideas. If you want to be able to plant that tree, you tell people about it. It's a good communication. People cannot read your mind. Anger control and fair fighting. If it is possible that even in good relationships, we're not always going to agree. We're going to have differences in those arguments. We're going to have differences of opinion. It's fine to be upset. Oh, well, you want to do this and I want to do that. I don't know. Well, let's talk about that. Okay. So it is possible to have a healthy fight, and that's possible. That can be a whole other lecture. It is possible to have a healthy fight. Well, you know what? You told me this the other day and I did not like it. And then the other person will say, oh, I told you this because X, Y, and Z, right? okay, well, I'm sorry. Next time I will not say that. And I am sorry for that. So it is possible to have a healthy fight and then move on and still have a healthy relationship. Okay. And then, the whole point, the whole key for a healthy fight is you're both aiming to problem solve. How can we solve this problem? You're both aiming and how can we make things better? How can we navigate? The world is full of problems and we all are striving to solve them. Okay. And then the last few ones, self-confidence and being a role model. You as a parent, our children are seeing how we behave with our partners, with our husbands and wives every day. And they see how we navigate a fight and how we navigate the good times and the bad times, right? And so when we are being a good model, our children will learn those behaviors. They will learn them and they will repeat those behaviors when they are grown up. So if we are modeling negative behaviors, if we are modeling, into any of these on the left side, any disrespect, if we're modeling intimidation and dishonesty, our children are going to model them. Actually, the next day in school, they will model them the next week when they're with a friend, and they will model them when they are 20 years down the road, when they're in a marriage, someday. So we have to think about how to best model and navigate those healthy relationships with our partner today. Okay. And that is it. Thank you all so much. I know there are some questions here. You want me to read these? I'm going to
Yes,
stop.
please. I just want to say, wow. I mean,
Mhm.
excellent presentation. I love it. I think that is something that our parents have been asking for, and I really appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you again, Dr. Rodriguez, for an excellent presentation. I know that our parents have
Same
been
here. That was just very important topics. And you definitely covered everything, covered so many things I didn't even think of. So thank you. Before we go with the questions, a reminder that the surveys are in the chat. So you can go ahead and start filling those out and give us your feedback.
So yeah, thank you, Dr. Hill. You might want to put, can you add the links again? So while Dr. Rodriguez is reading the questions and answering them, if parents could take a moment to filling out those surveys. But Dr. Rodriguez, I send you the questions privately. So if you want to read them out loud, some of them were comments. So please read those as well.
Okay.
And also, if for any reason you cannot see the surveys because you are watching this presentation with your phone, do not worry. We'll be sending an email with those links as well. But we ask you that you please take a moment and really respond to those surveys because it will help us tremendously.
Okay.
So if you want to go ahead, Dr. Rodriguez.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so the first a question or comment here says, wow, I did not know how bad long periods of electronic time will impact the child's brain. Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez and Dr. Hill, for this presentation. Yes, anything more than 2 hours, it is not a good thing, especially, the thing is that when we're children, the young little bodies, they're just little. They can only absorb and take so much. So if that's all they're seeing, that's not a good thing. Think about when you and I were growing up, we kind of didn't have this kind of technology back then, right? And so we were not glued to our phones like we are now. So yes, it is changing and affecting our children if we're watching more than 2 hours of media consumption. Question, do you have any suggestions for me on how to help a preteen who loves YouTube videos and does not like to go outside and play? I was trying to use it as a reward for him, but how long is it okay for him, in your opinion? So he's a preteen and he loves YouTube videos. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff that I was talking about, is shifting that gear. You know, you can't go from watching YouTube videos and then not watching them at all. So I would suggest in having a gradual phase of moving that. So one suggestion would be, if your child grabs that tablet or grabs that phone, you can say, oh, I see you're about to grab it and watch videos. You know what? I'm going to let you watch it for 20 minutes right now. So as soon as he starts doing that, you're going to say, I'm going to let you watch it for 20 minutes. And you're in the minutes, and he can say, oh, wait, hold on. Okay, we start the timer. Okay, ready? We're going to start the timer. And you put in your timer on your phone or whatever it is, 20 minutes. And leave him alone. Let him get those 20 minutes in. And you can tell him, after those 20 minutes, you and I are going to go outside and we're going to play with chalk. Have another substitute that you know he likes to do. Have him think about, maybe he can give you suggestions, or maybe something that you can suggest, but have him do something that he also likes to do. Don't have him do something that he hates to do, right? So it's a gradual thing. Okay, if he likes to play basketball, if he likes to fold clothes, I mean, I don't, whatever it is that he likes to do. Okay, after 30 minutes, then we're going to do this. And hopefully that lasts more than 30 minutes. You know, it's another activity. Okay, but you're going to be very specific with your time frame. That would be my recommendation. Question, I like the idea of crafts. My child loves to play with sand. Any suggestion? Yes. Stores like arts and crafts, like Michael's, what's that other store in Opelika that has arts and crafts? Walmart, I mean, any stores has tons of any sand, any pipe cleaners, even little buttons. I noticed that some, you can, if you have buttons, when you buy new clothes, I got into a habit of just collecting, when you buy a new shirt, they give you an extra button. I ended up with a bunch of buttons, and you can just get a bunch of little things that they like to touch, are fantastic. What are those little beads, the water beads? Orbeez, we call them Orbeez. If you are familiar or not familiar, those are fantastic also for children. They're called water bees, Orbeez. You put them in water and they get a little bit big and they're soft and it's fantastic. And you can also have him play with sand outside. You can also buy a bag of sand. When you go to hardware stores, they have play sand, and you can get a sand pit. Just make sure you cover it when he's not using it or your child's not using it. That way, you don't have water or other bugs in it. But that would be a fantastic way to have your child be outside playing with sand too. Question, I have seen that when my child doesn't sleep, he is more prone to be upset during the day. Oh, absolutely. Any recommendations you may have for keeping him sleep through that night? He is 9 years old. Some people have told me to use Benadryl. So look around his room. Ask him. He is 9 years old, so he may be able to tell you why he wakes up. Maybe he wants to use the restroom. Maybe he's too hot or too cold. Sometimes during the night, children, they start off being really hot, and then in the middle of the night, they get cold. So that temperature change does affect. So if he's hot and then he just doesn't know how to cover himself up, let him know, look, here's a blanket in case you get cold, and now you can use it and you don't have to actually wake up. Look to your windows to see if there's any light or noises that may happen. Here in Auburn, we live close to a train. We have the train in the middle of the night. Some children may get woken up by that, may not. So think about noises. Maybe your air conditioner turns on and wakes them up. So he might be a light sleeper. One of the things you can do is teach him ways. If he does wake up, then what are we going to do about it? So teach him ways to get himself back to sleep. So one of the things he could do is, yes, he can stay in bed, not get up altogether. He can get a book, you can buy him a little night light, just a tiny little flashlight, and he can read a book to help him fall back asleep. He can get up, go to the restroom, go back, and again, just lay down. And my recommendation would be to read something to get him back to sleep. So having a tiny little light might help him go back to sleep. So good luck. I hope that helps. If it is possible, if it does continue and it does affect his sleep altogether, I would talk to your doctor, and have him suggest or have your doctor see if he does need medication or not. Usually medication like Benadryl is not, we want to talk about with our doctor. Usually sleeping medication is not a good thing to take it for a long period of time, like for many, many months, right? So it would only be in certain situations. So talk to your doctor if it does continue. Question. Thank you very much for educating us on the importance of healthy being. Gracias for this presentation. Oh, thank you. Great recommendations about changing the environment. Thank you for explaining this in a simple way. Thank you, guys. My doctor recommended a heavy blanket to help my child stay asleep through the night, and it made a big difference for him. Yes, absolutely. The weighted blankets. That is, especially for little children, maybe 5, 6, those little kids that squirm a lot at night. If they are cold at night, not every child, it won't work for every child. But if your child's always cold, a heavy blanket would help them kind of, just not move so much, right? Question. My child is such a picky eater and only prefers carbs like pizza and mac and cheese. Do you suggest on how to help him eat more vegetables? Most children love carbs. That's really what they love on. That most children love pastas and pizzas. So your child's pretty normal. Now the trick would be, how do we get him or her to eat more vegetables? The one thing would be when they love snacks. So pizzas and mac and cheese probably is their meal, but usually children also like a snack. So when they have a snack around your house, always have a healthy fruit outside, laid out on the countertop for them to grab and eat. Sometimes I like to just get an apple and cut it up in slices and just leave it there. And the child will come around and just get an apple slice and eat it. I do the same thing with oranges. I have oranges and bananas. I have grapes, something that's kind of easy for them to grab and eat. So if you will notice, if you have it laid out on the table, on the countertop, and if you have different options, they'll be like, ooh, what is this? I've never seen this before. And they'll grab it and eat it. So if you make it available, they will eat it. And you start off with these snacks, all of these other things, right? And then slowly, when you're giving them him or her that plate, when they're actually having lunch, if they're having a pizza, put some spinach in there with some ranch, put some carrots in there with some ranch as well. And he may not eat it the first time, but he will eat it eventually. So one of the things that data shows is that a child needs to see a fruit or a vegetable 10 different times, or offering it 10 different times before they actually say, okay, I'll try it. So it takes a while for the child to eventually say, okay, mom, I will try this carrot. So keep offering it, and it's okay. You're going to tell them, try to eat it. And they may not eat it the first time. They may not eat it the 5th time, but eventually they will pick it up and put it in their mouth. So keep putting it in their plates just a little bit so they can try it. Okay, so basically be intentional and don't give up. Be consistent. Yes, I love the picture of the My Plate food. Yes, if you have your phones, go to myplate.gov and it gives you the plate, and you can click on different portions, and it gives you ideas about how to what is a protein? What's another protein other than beans? What else do I do? So it helps you navigate that. So it's a really, really nice resource. Question. I felt so lonely when we got the diagnosis for my child. Thanks to Miss Maria, I was able to get connected with other moms. And now my husband and I have made so many new friends that live not so far from us. That's wonderful. I'm so happy that you have this new connection again. That social relationship and social connections are so important, especially navigating stressful situations, right? This is a good, healthy relationship that you've established. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to the RAN for this excellent presentation, and to Dr. Rodriguez. I love it. Thank you so much. You're welcome. I'm very, very happy to be here. And then somebody says, I don't see the survey. And say, question, the therapist that is working with my child is teaching me how to change my way to respond to my child's behavior that impede him from socializing with a family and kids at school. That is wonderful. Yes, children, it's hard for little bodies to get connected and be able to talk to strangers, even if it is relatives. You might say, well, it's just my cousin, or it's just my aunt, or it's just my sister. But children with autism have a harder time in connecting with other people other than their parents. And all it is working with your therapist, and I'm glad that you're doing that, and having a little bit of patience with your child is so important. Thank you for this topic in this presentation. Oh, you're welcome. And then somebody wrote here in Spanish, el último punto sobre las relaciones es un tema en que estoy muy interesada. Las amigas de mi hija son un poco malas con ella. Le dejan de hablar cuando ella quiere, le quitan sus cosas y se le regresan en mal estado. En fin, le comenté a mi hija que se tratara de buscar otras amistades y me dijo que no tiene amigos. Tuve una larga plática. Mi pregunta es, ¿tienen alguna información que le pueda dar sobre esto? So this parent has a hard time with her child has had having a hard time with friends and doesn't have positive friendships. And so a parent is asking if I have any thoughts, after the parent talking to her daughter, if I have any thoughts of how she can find some information that maybe can help her additionally to finding a friendship. I think I'm curious, tengo un poquito de curiosidad en la edad de esta niña. Muchas veces depende, it depends on the age of the child, if they're teenagers versus they're 6 or 8 years old. But either way, I think one of the main things as a parent you can tell, and I'll translate this in Spanish as well so the parent can hear, is as a parent, one of the lessons in life is that, people are hard to understand. And sometimes we are not going to be best friends with everybody in the whole wide world. And that's okay. We're not going to be able to have, 1,000 friends. It doesn't matter what Facebook says. We're just not going to have that. If we have one friend, we're so lucky. So déjeme traducir esto. Para el papá, quisiera saber cuántos años tiene su niña, porque a veces depende en la edad, si es un adolescente o es un niño pequeño como de 6 o 7 años. Pero finalmente el punto es de que es muy importante que el papá o la mamá le comparta esto a su hija, que al final del día no vamos a tener 1,000,000 de amigos o miles de amigos, no importa que diga Facebook, que diga ahí que tienes 1,000 amigos. Al final del día no vamos a poder complacer a todas las personas. Y esa es una lección difícil que los niños a veces tienen que aprender. Si ese amigo o esa amiga no quiere platicar contigo, nomás decirles, ok, gracias, nos vemos, y yo mejor sola que mal acompañada, ¿verdad? Ese es el dicho que nosotros conocemos. Es mucho más importante que nosotros tengamos la paz. Es mucho mejor estar solos y en paz a estar con alguien y estar peleando, porque eso no nos va a beneficiar a nadie. Pero es una lección muy, muy importante, que lamentablemente quisiéramos decirle a nuestro hijo, ay, sí, mira, te voy a dar 10 amigos más, pero no es la cantidad de amigos, es la calidad de amigos. Eso es algo muy importante que tenemos que platicar. Y le voy a decir, eso es una conversación que tenemos que tener con nuestros niños cada año, porque cada año los niños los cambian de clases y tenemos diferentes relaciones. Entonces, constantemente estar visibles y atentos a cómo nuestros hijos platican y qué emociones tienen nuestros hijos acerca de sus amiguitos y sus amiguitas. Okay. Y apoyarlos constantemente. No te preocupes, mijita, no te pasa nada. No es el fin del mundo cuando un amiguito, una amiguita nos hace el feo, ¿verdad? Y los podemos decir como ejemplo, a mí también me hicieron el feo y yo nomás les dije, ok, gracias, adiós, y ya. Thank you. The last pointer about relationships is a very important topic for me during this time, as some of my daughter's friends are mean to her and they will stop talking to her for whatever they want. And they want her to take away from her stuff. Okay, I think this is the same question, right? Yeah, it was that I just addressed. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure speaking with every one of you. Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you again, Dr. Rodriguez. I think that this was an excellent presentation. I mean, fascinated with all sorts of information. I have if I could just, put it together for the parents that about what I felt that it was very important for me as a reminder, right? About the importance about keeping an eye on the social media, right? I mean, keeping an eye on about how much time our kids are going to be spending on social media, TV, the tablet, right? I mean, it's very easy for us to say, like, here, keep yourself busy while I'll cook, right? But so be mindful about that and the importance about setting boundaries, especially with our young adults, right? And regardless of their ability to communicate, whether they are verbal or non-verbal, but start working with them early on and use this summertime to expand on their knowledge, and using visual schedules to help them. So I really like when you said that it is so important to help them with the transitions, right? To make it predictable for them. And to be active, to go out there and take them out there. So I really want to encourage families to look for, if in your area, if your Parks and Recs is offering any activities for kids with special needs, whether it is swimming, any adaptive sports, right? Go and look it up, and so that the kids are involved, and to be consistent, and the importance of family time. So once again, I really appreciated your time. This was a great presentation. And Dr. Hill, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Teach them to swim this summer. Thank you again, Dr. Rodriguez. This was a wonderful presentation. Topics were important, and it's nice that we can collaborate with VCOM. I think this is the first time, as far as one of these trainings, so it's important. And thank you to our interpreters. And just remember, we're going to have some other ones coming up, including one in July on the Americans with Disabilities Act. And don't forget to fill out the surveys. That's like my job. I just put the surveys in and tell you to fill them out. Go ahead.
So thank you again to our parents who participated today. We'll be sending the recording link with the surveys link for you to access them and fill them up. That will help us tremendously with our grant. And once again, if you guys have any questions to Dr. Rodriguez, let me know. I'll be happy to share her email contact. And thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful summertime, okay? Not just because we're going in summer, that means that we're stopping learning. So we are going to continue. And so you'll be getting our emails letting you know about what other activities and events are coming up. And we'll be seeing you around, and we are looking forward for the summer. And I hope that each one of your families have a wonderful time, that your family gets some time to have some respite, and the kids to do fun stuff with you. So thank you again, Dr. Rodriguez, and have a safe summer, everybody. And thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.